All righty, guys, what is good? Happy New Year to everybody that is out there. Man, all I can say is, this was an absolute classic of a season, 2024, and Michigan, the champion over Washington. Amazing. I still can't get over how the Michigan Wolverines are a college football national champion, and they were able to do it in the four-team era. They were able to prove a lot of things wrong about college football and also about the sport of football, in which I didn't really see, happening, and it opened my eyes to the entire sport of football and college football specifically. So hold on one second. With that being said, let's talk about what transpired. So we have Michigan. They win a championship. The reason it's so surprising is because they're from the North. Really, it's a school that for the first time in 10 years, there was no SEC team in the national championship. It's the only team to win really from the North in about the 10-year playoff history. Ohio State was the first team to win in the playoff era. But you look at Ohio State, they made a national championship in the COVID season. Ohio State, too, was right there, very close to beating Georgia. And Ohio State's done it with NFL wide receivers and NFL elite-level quarterbacks. You could say what you want about Cardale Jones, but they also had Devin Smith on that team. I think they had Zeke Elliott. Ohio State has been a team in the Big Ten, but they're unlike any Big Ten team in that the way that they recruit elite-level talents at quarterback and wide receiver. And last year you had C.J. Stroud, Marvin Harrison, Ibuka on that team. That was a remarkable college football team last year, and Michigan was able to beat that team at the Big House. Donovan Edwards and J.J. McCarthy included. This year was more led by Blake Corum, but the reason it was so incredible how Michigan was able to win was because they had just above average quarterback play, and they did not really have an NFL wide receiver. They look like a Notre Dame team on the offensive side of the ball. Maybe their offensive line was better, but they were like a Notre Dame team. And they did not have the best skill position guys. They weren't Ohio State. They were a classic Michigan team. And also Michigan defensively, Jim Harbaugh had time to build this thing. I mean, Jim Harbaugh he was like 0-4 in bowl games, and he lost to Ohio State I want to say maybe 4 straight times. And then in the COVID year, there was rumors if he didn't beat Rutgers in that game, there was rumors that Jim Harbaugh was going to get fired during 2020. I mean, in 6 years, he was a massive disappointment. He was considered overrated by every panelist, including Paul Feinbaum. Jim Harbaugh was considered the most overrated and most overpaid coach in football, not only the NFL, but college football. And Michigan stood tough by Jim Harbaugh. The defense that they were able to field, I mean, number 55, their defensive tackles are just out of this world good. There's the secondary, the cornerback, 2, who was guarding Rome Odunze, and then I guess his name's Samerstuhl. I mean, Michigan's personnel on defense with Jesse Minter this defense was just absolutely incredible from cover to cover. And they did it against an offense tonight in which Oregon, Texas, Oregon State, Arizona, no team could stop Washington. And Washington has the best quarterback in college football by a mile, by an absolute mile. I'm taking Michael Penix over anybody. I know Jaden Daniels put up nice numbers, but Michael Penix all year long was magic. It was absolutely magic. He beat Bo Nix both times they squared off. Ryan Grubb, the best offensive coordinator in college football, and Kalen Deboer, the best offensive minds in the game. You had Dylan Johnson. You had the Joe Moore Award offensive line. You have Rome Odunze. You have McMillan, who's an NFL player. You have Polk, who's going to be an NFL player. Elite college football passing game, as good of an offense as you're going to see at the college football level. This was a magical Washington team. And Michigan tonight went, and it was great offense against spectacular defense, and spectacular defense won the day. It reminded you of the Tampa Bay Bucks in 2002 beating Rich Gannon. That's the type of game that it was. They smothered them. It was incredible. Washington got numerous chances. J.J. McCarthy did not play well tonight. He only had 130 yards, passing the ball. Michigan was able to get sacks in the first half. They got major sacks on Michael Penix. They got a huge turnover in the third quarter. They were great in the red zone defensively. They were getting pressure up front with four guys, and then Michael Penix, they rattled him. You hit a quarterback and you ruin a rhythm of a quarterback, and you're going to end up winning. And that's why I like the sport of football, because it's a team game. Because Michael Penix, you look at Washington, if you were to just maybe pick the best players in the game, I mean, I know Blake Corum's a pretty good player. You'd maybe look at some defensive linemen, but especially in the NFL, I don't think Michigan's going to have players that are going to go as high as Rome Odunze, as high as Michael Penix, as high as Jalen Polk. There's no way that Michigan's even going to have one guy that's up there. And I look at even for the next level, or even at college football, and I think McCarthy's fine, but if you put Michael Penix on Michigan, Michigan's going to win that game maybe 60-10. I mean, that's how good Michigan's defense is. And J.J. McCarthy's a really good supporting cast quarterback. A little bit like Stetson Bennett, a little bit of a better, he's kind of exactly like A.J. McCarron was in college, a winner, a brilliant thrower of the ball. He does have a lot of mobility, but the guy is 27-1, doesn't turn the ball over, does have arm strength to extend plays a little bit. And he could get outside the pocket and just make some plays for you. But really, the defense hands you opportunity after opportunity where you don't need to carry the team. And that's why it's so surprising, because it was like an Ian Book-led, Notre Dame team winning a national title. And this Michigan defense just got to a point where they're an SEC defense up north. They're on par with some of the greatest defensive teams in the history of football. I mean, they only gave up 10 points a game. They faced Jalen Milroe, Isaiah Bond, really electric playmakers at Alabama, the best the sport had to offer, and they really shut down Alabama, especially in the first half and then in overtime with that stand. And this Michigan team had so much turmoil. I mean, they lost to Georgia the first year. You could see the talent gap that Jim Harbaugh and this team had to do. That you saw the work that had to be done when it was a quarterback in Cade McNamara leading that team, and Michigan, I think it was, Hutchinson was there. You saw the talent gap that was, Michigan. When they played Georgia and got trounced in that Orange Bowl, it wasn't even close. It was a splattering that took place in Miami, Florida. Then last year, their defense got absolutely run over by Max Duggan, by Miller, by also Quentin Johnson, had a huge game against Michigan. They weren't ready to face the elite of the elite. They weren't the complete team that they are this year. Then Blake Corum comes back. All these guys come back, and now they're ready. They went toe-to-toe with an Alabama. They beat Alabama. They beat Ohio State at home. They went and played Penn State on the road without their head coach and absolutely ran it down Penn State's throat. And their defense controlled the entire game. And their defense is amazing. The way they play football is just a joy. It's beautiful to watch. It's beautiful. I'm tired of people say that they win ugly. They beat teams up. They tackle. Their fundamentals are absolutely wonderful and beautiful to behold. The way that they're able to guard and switch routes on the perimeter tonight against Washington, really they played a great game. Their pass rush synced up with their secondary, and they made plays on the football. They tackle physically. They're in the right spots. They're prepared. And then this year, they had to overcome the scandal of, Connor Stallions, of the sign-stealing scandal, of their head coach having to leave for the three most important games of the season being Ohio State, being Penn State, being Maryland, and Sherrone Moore needed to step in and do a brilliant job. And then Jim Harbaugh returns, and they don't miss a beat either. All right, and they run the table in the Big Ten Conference. They end up, they're up, I think, 6 points. They end up getting an interception on Kyle McCord to win. This team has just been right up to the pinnacle of the sport, okay, coming up short as undefeated teams, pretty much the last several years. And they were right there on the doorstep, and instead of cowering away, they decided to bounce back and come right back to that moment. And it's amazing that the resiliency that it takes of a team, it's kind of like Virginia. Virginia in basketball, when they won, it was such a rewarding title because they ended up getting knocked off by a 16 seed when they were the number 1 seed, and all the guys came back for unfinished business, and then they were able to win the national title. Or North Carolina did that in basketball the following year. Stetson Bennett and Georgia. I love seeing those stories. And for Washington, it was an amazing year. They put Washington in a whole nother light. I don't think Washington will be another TCU. I think they will still be a force. Now the recruiting has to continue to get great. In a sense, Washington was kind of like Joe Burrow, but I think that Kalen Deboer is more suited to be a long-term option than was Coach O. Coach O, that offense, when Joe Brady left and Joe Burrow left, that team kind of became a shell of itself, and there was turmoil between the AD and Coach O. I think that Deboer is a really good offensive play caller. I think he has potential if he, God willing, again, for great health for Kalen Deboer, for him to run a great, clean program like he's running right now. I think that Grubb and Deboer can be there a long time and wreak havoc there, but no offense to all the other quarterbacks that are coming in at Washington, I just believe that Michael Penix is maybe a one-in-a-generational quarterback up there. I really haven't seen a quarterback play better in the Pacific Northwest in all my time of being alive and following the sport, which is 30 years. It might happen to be Marcus Mariota might be the last quarterback that was this amazing as Michael Penix. I mean, the guy absolutely puts the ball wherever he wants to. The guy is so accurate throwing the ball. Him and Rome Odunze and Polk, Oregon defenders are right there. Okay, Texas defenders are right there, and these balls are seeds. They're bullets going right to the wide receivers, and impossible to defend when they have it humming. Michael Penix tonight got hit and hit and hit and kept fighting. He's a warrior. He didn't have his most accurate game. A lot of that can be attributed due to Michigan, but the guy all season long was incredible. An amazing story of resilience. Very, very worthy champion and player. A Sugar Bowl champion, a Pac-12 champion, and a guy that was right up, that should have, in my mind, won the Heisman Trophy, just came up a little bit shy. And then tonight almost almost won a national title. What a representative from the Pac-12 in their last year from the Pac-12. They denied my favorite team, Oregon, from going all the way. So Michael Penix and Rome Odunze are going to be legends forever in Seattle, Washington. That's the best quarterback wide receiver combo we'll see in the Pacific Northwest. It's just a once in a lifetime quarterback and coach combo, and it was almost good enough to win, to go undefeated and win a national championship. Washington this year survived Arizona State, survived Stanford, survived a game at Oregon State, but they survived because of explosive plays. Tonight, Michigan limited those explosive plays, but still, Washington, I mean, what a great year for the sport of college football. I am so disappointed that the playoff is going to a dozen teams because it's going to take away the impact of the regular season. It's going to add an extra game onto the season, which I really don't like. I like how there's only about 15 games at max because I think that these players lay everything on the lines and they risk their bodies for the betterment of the team. And I think that just continuing to overcrowd them and play just more football for the sake of it, it isn't going to create a better product. I think the product in this era of college football has been sensational, the 14 playoff era in the last 10 years. And I'm going to miss the conferences. I'm going to miss it dearly. I don't know what the future has to hold in college football, but it seems like an end of an era. But it's amazing that a Big Ten team from the North in the year 2023, when everybody talks about how the South always wins these games, they did it without having an incredible influx of transfers. This Michigan team they defied everything that I laid out about the South, about all the talent being down south, about not having a real, just unbelievable college quarterback that just takes over games. J.J. McCarthy is kind of like Brock Purdy at Iowa State. J.J. McCarthy is a solid total game manager type player, complementary piece. He's not your Joe Burrow. He's not your Cam Newton. I mean, some of these guys are once-in-a-lifetime talents. I mean, even Fields was really good at Ohio State. I would say that Stroud was magic. Against Georgia, Stroud almost won them a national title with how magical he was and how magical C.J. Stroud was during his time in Columbus, Ohio. Cardale Jones in that passing game was amazing. And J.J. McCarthy never had the weapons that Urban Meyer, that Ryan Day, that even Jim Tressel has had. I mean, you go back to 2002 Ohio State, which is a different team, but they had Maurice Clarett, who's one of the greatest running backs in the game that's ever done it, one of the great talents in college football history. So, again, just really good for the sport to see a team from the North win a title like this. And I can't compliment the Michigan Wolverines enough for their accomplishments, and just a beautiful year for the sport of college football. And thank you guys for watching.